Kume229 here, and RWBY is getting an anime. Like, an actual legit anime. So, this just recently got announced. And we don't know a whole lot about it, but we know enough to talk about it. So, we just got this announcement really recently, and we also have a trailer for it. And it is an actual anime made by Shaft of RWBY. Now, the first question to ask is, what exactly is this going to be? Like, it could just be a companion anime covering some extra stuff in RWBY, but from what we've seen in the trailer, it looks like this is going to cover the events of Volume 1. We see scenes like RWBY fighting Junior's goons who are working for Torchwick, like at the very beginning of Episode 1 of the series. We see them in the Emerald Forest. We see the little relic things that they were supposed to pick up in the Emerald Forest. We see RWBY and Weiss have a confrontation and dealing with a bunch of Beowulf scrims and an Evermore. We see Weiss fighting a Grimm in the classroom like she did during her little arc with RWBY. And we even see the naming ceremony for the team. This stuff is all stuff that happened in Volume 1, and it's actually really interesting to think about that. Because when you look at this trailer, a lot of it's focused almost entirely on stuff from Volume 1. Now, I said mostly, because like I mentioned, a lot of these scenes that they showed are very clearly analogs for scenes that were in Volume 1. However, we did see a scene that's very clearly pulled from the Volume 5 short for Weiss that shows her doing training, with the Winter, and she fails, and, Winter chastises her. Very interestingly, there's one shot that actually shows a scene from the very end of that short. And that's interesting. Now, the anime is subtitled Ice Queendom, which very heavily implies that this is going to focus heavily on Weiss. Now, Weiss does have a significant backstory that they don't really delve into as much as they probably should have in Volume 1, because you have to wait until, the end of Volume 1 to actually get any of the complicated aspects of her backstory, because she's an heiress, from the very beginning to the Schnee Dust Company. But it's not until the very end of Volume 1 where you actually see her talking about how the White Fang has really hurt her, and why she has such an issue with Faunus, which is a very complex issue, which is interesting. It's just sad that it took that long for Volume 1 to actually delve into any of that. There's also a scene in the trailer of RWBY at Summer's grave, which is interesting because you only ever see that in the actual show in the Red trailer and in the very beginning of Volume 3. I do hope they expand more on RWBY's relationship with Summer, because that's something that the actual show really lacks. Now, to get into ideas of what this could be, because right now we only have speculation based off of the minimal amount of information we've gotten, as well as this trailer. Now, if you look at the complete Volume 1, every episode back to back, and you divide that up into 22-minute episodes, which a normal anime would have, it barely comes out to 6 episodes. So even if they do just a 12-episode anime for this, that gives them over double the amount of screen time. Now, a complaint that people had about Volume 1 is that it didn't cover a lot of stuff that it really should have. And honestly, that's a pretty valid criticism, because things like Weiss's backstory, Blake's backstory, and hell, even Yang and RWBY's actual relationship wasn't really touched on as much as it really should be. Okay, you got a big input up with Blake at the end of the season because she was hiding it. Alright, that makes some sense. But stuff like RWBY and Yang being half-sisters isn't even explained until halfway through Volume 2. That confused people. Rightfully so, because they call each other sisters, but they have different last names, they don't look at all alike, so people were wondering what their actual relationship was. So, with all this extra time that they are inevitably going to have, because I don't think they're just going to do a 5 or 6 episode, season for this, but, you would inevitably have time, and we see them incorporating certain things like Weiss's backstory, and I'm sure they're going to include other backstory for everyone else. So there is plenty of time for them to actually delve into a lot of this stuff, because people complain that things like the whole Jean arc took too long. And yeah, he got kind of a disproportionate amount of time for what is actually a pretty good arc, but the problem is that other characters like Nora, Ren, and Pyrrha are completely shafted and get nothing in Season 1. And you have to wait until later for them to get anything. And then other members of Team RWBY probably should get a lot more content than they actually did because the show is named RWBY. But with all this extra time, you could include everything that was in Volume 1 and then, include a whole bunch of extra stuff. Because we see with them using the Volume 5 Weiss short that, they can actually just include a lot more story content, which would be a good improvement. This would also allow them the opportunity to iron out some rough edges of Volume 1. Because Volume 1 and 2, I still say, are the best the series has ever been, but they can still be pretty rough. Volume 1 especially, with short episodes and not really covering probably as much as they really should. It was a pretty rough production. But there are certain things like Jean not knowing at all what aura is, despite the fact that aura is actually a major part of the world of RWBY.
Why didn't you activate your aura?
Huh?
Your aura.
Gesundheit.
Jean, do you know what aura is?
Like, how do you not know what that is? Like, from a meta level, we know why that is, because they wanted to have someone explain this to the audience. So they chose Jean, who is the, kind of the bumbling guy, to not know what it is so that Pyrrha can explain it to him. Though, how the hell does someone like Jean, who's trying to become a huntsman, not know what aura is, not know these... It's stuff like that that's sloppy, and they have a chance to redo that stuff and actually make sense of it. Like, for example, you can have that same scene, but have Pyrrha ask if Jean knows what aura is, because he seems to be kind of ignorant, and then him say, oh, well, I know what aura is, and yada yada, he gives the explanation. There are little changes here and there that you can do, and there's also stuff you can do to sort of set up more stuff with what's going on with the bad guys, and even set up characters like Emerald and Mercury before, they actually get properly introduced in Volume 2. Maybe even spend a little bit more time with Cinder. We don't know exactly what they're going to do, but we can piece together a few things for speculation. They did show that they have new outfits for everyone. For the most part, everyone's in their Volumes 1 outfit, which is actually cool. Those are their best designs outside of the alternate designs that Team RWBY got in Volume 2. But the Volume 1 designs are still the best designs for the main characters. But they also showed new outfits that are winter outfits. And considering the whole theme regarding Weiss and, the Ice Queendom and some of the promotional art focusing on Weiss, it is interesting to think of what they're going to do with this. Because this is clearly showing Volume 1. So what are they going to do? Are they going to go to Atlas in Volume 1? Are they just going to show winter time at Beacon, which would actually be nice? Are they going to have everyone go on a ski trip to the mountains for a filler episode and everyone gets winter outfits? We don't know yet. Obviously, they'll explain stuff later on. And once the show comes out, we'll be able to actually see this. But for now, this is actually really interesting because there's a lot that this could do that really expands a lot of these characters. Though, I have to stress, this could go badly. Now, the idea of redoing RWBY is something a lot of people have been wanting for a number of years. Ever since really Volume 5 for the general fandom, a lot of people have been going, things have been kind of going off the rails, and the last several volumes have been complete train wrecks, to put it nicely. And if you ask other parts of the fandoms, like me, I'd say that the show's been going off the rails since Volume 3. Volume 3 was an absolute dumpster fire. It completely shattered any cohesion with lore and the story. It was a mess, and the fact that they started slaughtering characters left and right, including a bunch of beloved popular characters for no reason other than for shock value. And then a lot of those deaths, if they're ever referenced again, are just like, hey, remember that this character died? Yeah, you probably feel sad about that. Alright, moving on. I mean, Penny did come back, because she was a robot, and she got rebuilt, and we've been saying that for a while. And then they killed her off again after contriving absolute nonsense to turn her into a human so that they can then kill her off for real again. Like, modern RWBY is a mess. But they could completely redo this. What exactly are they going to keep? We're not entirely sure. They are clearly keeping some aspects of stuff post Volume 2, which is the at the Monty era, Volume 3 onward, Monty had died and things went in a very different direction. But after Volume 2, a lot of stuff started getting introduced that started being really weird. Some of it was Monty's ideas that were written by other people. Some of it was just introduced by Miles Carey and company. But this is where things could really start to go badly. Now, to be clear, they could still do something totally different than what the show did and still come out with a really terrible show. The writing could still be atrocious. Like, let's be real here. Some anime can be really badly written. Just because it's anime doesn't mean it's automatically going to be fixed. But this could actually be amazing and the best content for RWBY we've gotten for years. And in some of the cases, this is going to give us something that we haven't had for years. Like, we have new Pyrrha content. Like, Pyrrha has a new outfit for this show. We're going to be seeing Pyrrha again. Actually, genuinely, not just a, hey guys, remember how Pyrrha died and you're totally sad about that? Alright, moving on. Hey guys, remember how John is, like, really sad about that? Moving on. We're actually going to be getting Pyrrha content for the first time since she was mercilessly and convolutedly killed off in Volume 3. This is actually great, and I have no doubt that there's going to be good stuff about it. The fight animation, from what little we've seen from the trailer, looks pretty nice. But is the writing going to be great? Don't know. Now, something that is a slight cause for concern is some of the details we've seen from the official site showed that they are keeping details past volumes 2 and 3. They reference the maidens, which, to be fair, the idea of the maidens isn't bad. It's just that the way they were written and the way they used the relics and how everything was set up in Volume 3 was done so badly. And the execution was bad, so it could work, right? They did reference the idea that magic is seen as, like, oh, weird, and, like, no one does this, which is something that came in Volume 5, which is...
We have dust semblances, but, I mean, there's no such thing as magic.
Which was pretty dumb, because they have semblances, which are basically magic. They have dust, which has all sorts of elemental magical properties. The idea that no one thinks that magic exists is kind of dumb. It could still work, but that's kind of dumb. Will they keep stuff like Salem, who was properly introduced at the end of Volume 3? Maybe. We don't know. Now, they could still even take the idea of... because Salem is a terrible character, but the idea behind her character of being like the ultimate big bad could work if handled by a good writer. We don't know. And that's ultimately the big thing to talk about with this, is... we don't know how it'll be. Not until the show comes out. Like, we'd have to wait and see exactly what they're going to be doing before we can make any real judgment. And it's not like this is a new season of main RWBY, where we can make a pretty good judgment about what things are going to be like based on what had been done. This is an entirely new group of people making a whole new show based on RWBY. Even though it's very clearly based on Volume 1, they're obviously taking things in a different direction, if just a little bit. Now, personally, I want to see them go in a wildly different direction. I don't want them to touch a lot of stuff that they did after Volume 2. I want to see what they come up with, because it'll no doubt be better than what was done in by Rooster Teeth, but it could still be bad. Now, I want to be cautiously optimistic here. I don't want to go, oh my gosh, new people are doing RWBY, they're going to fix everything, because we don't know that. I watched plenty of anime in my day, and some of it can be absolutely atrocious. Some of it can be some of the best content I've ever watched. So we don't know what this show is going to be like, but it's really interesting to see. Like, a lot of people have been wanting to see this. Now, I've talked about this on the channel. I have my own rewrite of RWBY, though I should probably redo my video talking about rewriting Volume 3 someday. Now, obviously, I could just say, well, I want them to rewrite it in the way that I would rewrite it, but obviously that's not going to happen, especially if they're going back and redoing things from the beginning. But I want this to be good. I know some people have been like, well, you criticized RWBY so much. Yes, because RWBY ended up being really bad. And if this show ends up being bad, then I will criticize it. But I want to watch this and I want it to be good. I want good RWBY content. I haven't been able to unironically enjoy RWBY since I watched Volume 2. Like, I know I criticize stuff a lot, and some people are like, well, you just want to criticize stuff. I criticize stuff when I feel like it's justified, but I don't want to just criticize everything. I like enjoying stuff. I like being able to sit down and watch a show and just get engrossed in it. I don't like when everything is bad. I do hope that RWBY Ice Queendom is going to be good. I hope that they take it in a different direction than what is done in the show, and actually make this good. And even if they include stuff from the main show, like they referenced Leo Lionheart from Volume 5, they could still do his character good if they took him in a different direction and wrote him better. And it's not that everything post Volume 2 is a bad idea. It's the fact that you have some bad ideas, and then you have a lot of ideas that could work, but are just bungled up in execution. And this is the chance to redo it. Will it be good? Don't know. But I cannot wait to actually watch this, and I might do reviews on episodes, maybe, not entirely sure, but I'm definitely going to check this out and see if I like it. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about with this video. I just saw all the stuff from the new RWBY anime, and I'm actually kind of excited, and I wanted to talk about it. So if you want to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon, or you can also check out my Subscribestar. Or you can check the join button down below and check out the YouTube memberships for the channel. But anyways, thank you for watching.